we organized here in Naples. So we were very, very happy to have him again here as an expert for this Young Committee for the Future. He is an expert of automation, he is an engineer, he's a professor of control and robotics at the University of Naples, and he is the head of this interdepartmental center for advanced robotics in surgery, and the coordinator at the University of Napoli of Prisma Lab, this lab also on robotics. So, I give the floor to Professor Siciliano, that is also a very good speaker. So I'm sure that this first talk of the morning will be very nice, and 20 minutes for the talk and 20 minutes for the question time with the guys. Thanks.
I think it's on. Okay, girls and guys, good morning. Thanks for the nice introduction and the invitation to give you a short talk this morning. Actually, I live 2 blocks from here, so probably this has been the closest talk. I used to travel quite a bit around the world and give talk in exotic places, Australia, Singapore, Buenos Aires, things like this, but this has been the closest. So, so that's why I was here on time at 9:30, because it takes me 5 minutes walk from where I live here. I hope you're enjoying your stay in Napoli. The weather could have been better. I mean, this has been a crazy, well, now we are in the spring, so since yesterday. So hopefully we will get some better weather for the rest of your stay here in Napoli. We had an unusually kind of rainy and wet winter. For the first time in my life, I saw snow here at this sea level. This happened Tuesday, February 27th, and I've never seen snow at sea level on the beach. I mean, the latest big snow was back in 1956, and I was born later. So, this was kind of crazy. So I'll be talking about robotics and automation. And what is happening in this field, as I try to capture in the title of my talk, is that robots are moving closer to humans. So this is a big message I want to share with you this morning, because we are living in a world where we will find some robots in the same way as I see some of you are playing with your smartphones. And because we are in the age of media, technology, and use of social. So believe me that in a few years we will have robots populating our world. Just a few words. I come from, since some more guys and girls are walking in. I'm a professor of robotics in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Information Technology at the University of Naples, Federico II. The university is the oldest public university in Europe, because there were 2 older universities here in Italy, but they were part of the church. So it's like the oldest public university in Europe. And also in Napoli, this is the oldest school of engineering, which was founded in 1811. By King Gioacchino Murat. Gioacchino Murat was a general of the Napoleon army, because we had the French Angioin family here in Napoli. If you walk to the center where there's a town hall, there's a castle which is known Maschio Angioino. That was built by Charles d'Anjou. This was king of Naples back a few centuries ago. So Gioacchino Murat founded the first school of engineering, which is the oldest school of engineering in all Europe. So engineering, we consider engineering started from Naples. I'm sure you're enjoying the city as well as the culture and the environment of this fantastic city. As Alberto and the others know, I made my choice because I've taught in American universities. I've been tempted many times to leave the city and move abroad and to accept chairs, positions, but in the end, I feel very rooted here, and whatever I've done with my city, with support of my city and for my city. So I'm truly 101% Napolitan to this regard. So, just a few words of introduction, and as I said, we have robots everywhere. So not only in the factories, just to do some kind of assembly manufacturing, but we have robots have been sent, rovers have been sent up to Mars, and they're used under the ocean. I will be ending my presentation with a nice entertaining video of all kinds of applications of robots in different scenarios, but the robots are already used in hospitals, in schools, and one day will be used also in our homes. This is a cover of Scientific American, which was a statement by Bill Gates. This dates back to 12 years ago, back in 2006. And Bill Gates at that time predicted that this is the age, the dawn of the age of robots. And robots will become as intelligent and personal as to becoming pervasive. I mean, just each of us has one of these devices, like smartphones, tablets, and we don't make, it's absolutely normal that we use this. I remember when I was a teenager, it was the first color TV, and so it was a kind of surprise. And then every family had a color TV, and then 10 years later, every family had a PC, and so forth. What is a robot? Robot comes from robota. Robota, for those of you that that they speak Russian or Slav language, robota comes from the Slav language, and it means subordinate work, which just sets a sort of relationship between the machine and the human. And one of the greatest ambitions of human beings, just dating back to the times of Greek mythology, has always been that to give life to the artifacts. Nevertheless, if you ask the common people, just what is a robot, you always think about an android, a creature, and science fiction has been inspiring constantly the development of technology. I remember when I was young, there was a movie by Stanley Kubrick, 2001, Space Oddity. And this was a great movie, and it was very futuristic at that time. But now we are beyond. And some of this kind of visionary fiction in the cinematography has been now part of our reality. So if you ask the kids, probably, they think that this is the kind of robot. This was Wall-E, and in the final sequence of this clip, you saw that Wall-E gets a sort of emotional. Just sees a kind of love scene on TV and gets moved. So, can machines have feelings? The answer is yes. This is kind of surprising because, machine is like a crunch of iron, and this is mechanical parts, electronics, and things like this. But the more these machines become intelligent, they can relate the information and perception, and they can even develop some kind of feelings. One of the hottest topics of research in robotics and AI and artificial intelligence, I'll come to this point later, is the development of sentient machines. Sentient machines, this word means like machines capable of developing sentiments, feelings. If we go down Earth from the science fiction, what is a robot, according to the dictionary, if you wish, is a machine that independently of its exterior, that's an important issue, is able to execute tasks in an automatic way to replace or improve human labor. So this is what reality. And I'm trying to give an idea of what we are here, what we are now, what is the status quo of the development of robotics. So in the end, we want to build, we want to design, we want to realize machines to look like humans. So let's look at the robot skills. And we can see that the robot skills, what they are, it's like a baby, in a way, baby robot. So we are with the capabilities of recognizing objects equivalent to those of a 2-year-old child. We have the language capabilities of a 4-year-old child with a manual dexterity of a 6-year-old child and with the social understanding of an 8-year-old child. So that's where we are, status quo. So it's like we're building a sort of baby robot that, along with the development of technology, will grow and become a sort of adult robot, with the skills comparable to those of humans, of older, like teenagers and so forth. But what is the common definition of robotics? And to just draw this definition along with you, I'll just make an example. I'm thirsty, I want to get a glass of water, and I want to drink some water. So how does it work? I mean, for you it's obvious. Basically, you think you're thirsty, you feel you're thirsty, and then it just is a command from your brain, which is also merged with the sensing, because you have to see where the glass of water, where the water is, and also you have to touch and eventually grasp the glass and drink the water. So use some kind of visual feedback and also haptic. Haptic comes from the Greek word aptos, which means sense of touch. And then there are some commands which are sent from the brain to the hand and the arm. And then the commands are executed by some kind of motor, which are your arms, the muscles, the bones. This is called the actuation. So the game of robotics is to create a model of the human, if you wish, a robot manipulator, and at the same time a model of the brain. And this naturally brings us to the definition of robotics, which is commonly accepted in the scientific literature, which is the intelligent connection between perception and action. So a robotic system is a system that, is a physical system in which there are some senses, like vision, touch, that gives perception about the robot and the environment. There are some actuators which execute the commands, but more importantly, there is some kind of intelligence. And this is the same feedback principle that drives our life. So in a way, we're trying to build a machine that can resemble, can emulate, can mimic the same kind of intelligent behavior of humans. And I'm trying to take you along a kind of path which is the dichotomy of the evolution of robotics. As I said earlier, humans have always dreamt about the idea of replicating themselves. I give you a short path, like the first automata, which was developed back in 1200 by an Arabic scientist, Al-Jazari, and then in 1500, as an Italian, I couldn't refrain from mentioning the hell of engineer and artist of Leonardo da Vinci that realized a sort of humanoid, with the limit of technology at the time. And a milestone in our field was in 1550 when a French doctor, Robert Ambrose, he designed a prosthetic hand for an amputee. So this was the first example of prosthesis. And then later, an important aspect was that of entertainment, to build some robots to entertain the kids. And this is the case of the dolls designed by the Swiss brothers, Droz. And this is another picture which I took myself in the Science Museum of Tokyo. Those are the Kamakura Ninja dolls, which were developed to play, to let the kids play in Japan. An important milestone was in 1920, when the word robot was created according to the modern language, and this was in a play by a Czech writer, which was brought to theater for a drama, and this is Rossum's Universal Robots by the Czech player Karel Čapek. He was the inventor of the word robot. I always recall, I wrote several books, including a textbook, and this textbook, which I didn't dare to show because I didn't want to be too personal, it's a textbook which is being published in English and also translated into Italian, Greek, and Chinese. And I remember when I was a young professor, and I was so happy that I wrote a textbook which was going to be adopted by most universities around the world. I was visiting some colleagues at Tech University of Prague, and I went to Visegrad, which is the cemetery of the glories of Czechoslovakia. and I went to the tomb, to the grave of Carlo Chopper, and I was a sort of, macabre in taking a picture of the book on the groove, on tomb, or on the grave of Carlo Chopper, because this all started from him, that invented the word robot. And this is a picture I took back in 2005, and this is a parade of the humanoid robots in Japan. The World Expo that year was in Aichi, in Japan, and this was like a parade. And you may wonder, if you go to Wikipedia, you'll see that like 90% of the picture are of Japanese robots. Now, Japan is very advanced in robotics, but Europe and US are not second to Japan. Why is that? Why is that all the pictures in the socials and the Wikipedia are of Japanese robots? Probably because they are cooler. Or what? What is your perception? Why is that? And there are some cultural, social, and religious reasons for that. Because the Japanese society, most Japanese are Shintoists, and they believe that machines have a soul. And the machines, to be acceptable by the humans, they must have an appearance which look like humans or like animals. So that's why most of the Japanese robots are anthropomorphic or zoomorphically inspired. So this is a dream which eventually led to humanoid robotics. But mankind have always felt also a need to develop some useful machines. Actually, I'm giving this presentation in English, but there is a better way for capturing this dichotomy in Italian language. Because the word dream in Italian is sogno, and the word need is bisogno. So if you play with the word sogno versus bisogno, the dichotomy is even more appealing than in English, dream versus need. Anyway, I was born in 1959. This was the year when the first industrial robot was sold on a project by George DeVol for a company in the US called Illumination. And in the following 20 years, from 1960 to 1980, this is development of industrial robotics and, well, a lot of manufacturing applications. What happened in the following 20 years? Ideally, robots left the factories, and they were used outside in the field. So this is development of field robotics. This is a picture which was taken during the Dark Background Challenge in the desert of Arizona back in 2005, when a vehicle, a car, ultimately took the 160 miles of the path in the desert autonomously. So driverless and without being teleoperated. So with the sensors and the computers on board. So this is what is now taking us to autonomous cars or semi-autonomous cars. There was an accident by an Uber car the other day that it just ran over, killed someone which was accidentally crossing out of the zebra crossing, and some kind of ethical issues which I will come back later. The apex of field robotics application is certainly in space, just one of the rovers which was sent to the Martian soil. And if you go to the internet, you can buy this toy. This is a vacuum cleaner. There are different brands, and this is a robot that all effects. So it's already a robot in your home, and it's quite cheap. It's cheaper than a smartphone. Well, depends on the smartphone, of course. And for service robotics, the apex of the technology is medical applications. As it was kindly mentioned in the introduction, we have here in Napoli an interdepartmental center for advances in robotic surgery. And I dare to say that we are part of a network of 30 research labs around the world, that we have a research platform which was kindly donated by Intuitive Surgical, which is the company based in Sunnyvale, California, for the Da Vinci. Da Vinci is the robot, is the computed robot-assisted system for surgery, for minimally invasive surgery. So together with other 3 labs in Europe, another 3 labs in Italy and 5 labs in Europe, we belong to a Da Vinci Research Kit network. We share all the advanced results about research with other labs in the world. Then, in the following 20 years, we want to develop together this personal robot, And the question for the scientists, for the scientific community at large, is whether this personal robot should be of humanoid type. So I don't have an answer yet myself, but that's a kind of continuous dialogue in the scientific community. So just summarizing, the robots have been used in the factories for industry, and those are the 4 most developed areas of application. They've been used in the field, aerial, space, underwater, search and rescue. For instance, robots were used on the debris of Ground Zero in New York in 2001 by a colleague and a friend of ours, snake-like robots looking for victims or survivors or like human rest, under the debris of Ground Zero. And for service applications, domestic, entertainment, rehabilitation, and medical are the 4 domains where we see a lot of service robots. What is the connotation in moving from industry to field to service is the increasing level of autonomy. So in order to have intelligent robots, to interact with other robots and humans in the field, or to be useful for service application, we must increase the autonomy of the system. And this is posing us also some ethical questions, which are by no way easy to answer. I'm giving some, you will be professional, you are young, you are energetic, you are dreamers, you are passionate, but of course market is also influencing our life. And in this graph, I'm trying to recapitulate what happened in terms of the revolutions, from the analog wave to the first digital wave to the second digital wave, with the boom of digital consumer networks, and what is starting now is a sort of robotics wave. And this was a study commissioned to the Japan Robotics Association back in 2005, so it's pretty old, but these data are in perfect match with the latest data by McKinsey, and say that by less than 10 years from now, so by 2025, 2/3 of the market of robots will be by personal and service robots. So there will be more market for personal and service robots than blue, which is manufacturing. And what's happening in the field is also an acquire of companies and brains by other companies. So Google has invested, Google X, well, it's not called Google any longer, but of course Google is almost analogous now in Italian, and just to say, in Italian we say googliamo, like clicchiamo, or just like, because it's part of our society. It's acquired a lot of companies, but what the media fail to say sometimes is that Google has acquired brains. Because, it's not the algorithm, it's not the software, it's not the IPR, the intellectual property right, but the highest resource that we have is brains. So that's what Google is doing. But also other companies like Midea. Midea is a Chinese company, and they acquired the largest robot manufacturer, KUKA, based in Augsburg. In the same fashion, SoftBank, which is a Japanese company, has acquired Aldebaran. Probably you have seen now, or Pepper, those toy robots. Those are made by a French company, and once French company, Aldebaran, which is now part of SoftBank Japan. So this means that the money, Europe is at the forefront of research, development and technology. But most of the investments, most of the capitals come either from the Silicon Valley or from the East. So this is influencing, to a large extent, what's happening in the field. And this is, I don't want to spend much time, but this afternoon, for instance, I'm giving a talk in Caserta at a workshop organized by the industry people, the local Confindustria. And I will be speaking about Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution, which is very much focused on the development of cyber-physical systems. And when I say cyber-physical, into the definition, we have again a sort of dichotomy, because cyber is a synonym of intelligent. Physical speaks by itself, is the physical world. And there's been, if you read, you find an article about AI robotics almost every day in the media, because it's a kind of, this is a popular topic for discussion. And another topic, which is very much felt, is whether, last year, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, in Switzerland, in February, was made a statement that robots are job killers, that because of robots' fault, 5 million jobs will be lost in 10 years. This is, I mean, totally demagogic, and it's false, because each time there is a new revolution, there's kind of a turnover. It's a sort of requalification of the work, and clearly robots can be used for dangerous jobs, for alienating jobs, and also, I mean, what's happening is that in our society we will have soon a robot companion. So this is, I mean, some of the jobs which might be lost. And what you will see in this 1-minute video, which was published in Fortune Radar, which is, I mean, like this is Forbes magazine, I mean, you'll see that the kind of jobs which will be lost are not really those which can be helped by robots, but are those of the AI. I mean, Deep Blue was a computer that beat the world chess champion, Kasparov, 20 years ago. And it's like for AI, for brain you can have a replacement. For physical action, you can't. There's been a lot of discussion about AI and robotics. There was even a sort of argument between two influential guys, you know, the Facebook guy and the Tesla guru, and they were debating what is the future, what is the impact of AI. And the discussion was about brains. But in my personal view, they were missing an important aspect of robotics. That robotics is not only intelligence, it's not only brains, but it's bodies. I mean, the kids, they learn how to grasp the object. You know, as I say it in my introductory slide, the intelligence is not only neuronal, it's embodied. So the concept of intelligence, they learn how to grasp, to manipulate objects, also with the intelligence in the fingers. So it's not only the digital world. There's a lot of talk about IT, information technology. But from a robotics viewpoint, IT is just an enabling technology, because we are concerned with interaction technology. The interaction between the digital world and the physical world. And I wanted to synthesize this for you. So we have a number of new emerging areas, and what's happening is that by the dawn of the new millennium, we have the development of a new discipline. So robotics, which started as engineering technology, has become a science. And the current dialogue in the scientific community is about life and robotics. And there will be a new generation of robots which are expected to have to safely and independently cohabit with humans in homes, workplaces, community. And this will be used for work, for manual work, but also will be used for services, for healthcare and assistance, like the concept of a robot companion. So looking beyond, there are a number of research challenges. It's like in our community, we have developed the core methodologies and technologies in these 56 years, and any further progress in the field will not be in our field, but will be at the crossroads with other disciplines. And this is just a non-exhaustive list of research challenges, in which the experts are not necessarily experts of engineering and technology. And another important aspect which I want to share with you this morning is that of roboethics. And roboethics is not the ethics of the robots, because the robots as machines don't have their own ethics, but it's the ethics of those that design, build and utilize robots. This is the good use of technology. So, for instance, a drone, which is very cool, can become a sort of weapon. And a wearable robot, an exoskeleton, as you will see in the movie, that in a minute, is becoming a sort of good device if it's helping some kind of disabled people, or maybe as a sort of ergonomic support for some workers, even in a factory, but also in an hospital. But this same technology in the US, with research funded by DARPA, which is the funding agency of DOT, of Department of Defense, is used for the backpacks of the Marines in the Far East. So it's the good use of technology. And this is a sort of dialogue which is very important to develop a sort of consciousness in the development of the most advanced technology. So we have a scenario in which the robots can become so pervasive up to disappearing. So this is becoming a ubiquitous technology. And the robots will be just distributed or embedded into smart environmental thinking things like has happened for computers like 40 or 50 years ago. Now, what I have is a video. Can I play it? Okay, so this is the video which I promised, which is just summarizing all the application. So this was a video which I did with my brother. I mean, in Napoli I would say fratello. In the sense of, it's one of the brightest minds that we have in the scientific community, and is probably my best friend. And Thorsten Kroger is a younger guy who also helped us with the development of an app which works for smartphone and tablets on the second edition of the Springer Handbook of Robotics, which is this sort of mammoth task to which I devoted 12 years of my life, from 2002 to 2008 for the first edition, and from 2010 to 2016 for the second edition. So, wrapping up, the final message I want to share with you this morning is that this is a mosaic of some of the applications that you have seen in the video. The final message I want to share with you is that robots are with us, within us, and among us. Thank you very much for your kind attention. This is just leaving with two funny movies. One date back to 2009, when Asimov came to Napoli for an event organized at the Città della Scienza at Science City, and I was giving a talk, and I simulated some cough, and I need some water. So other than a girl coming and bringing me the water, Asimov came back from the stage and brought me a glass of water, and that's like me playing a ping pong with a Chinese robot. So robotics has been a big passion for my life, but actually I have a stronger passion than robotics, and this always comes first in my life, and the passion is football, European football, soccer, and just like my lab is 100 meters from the stadium in the area of Fuorigrotta. So when I go to the stadium to support Napoli, of course, my home team, Rodiman, which is one of the robots that we developed, is cheering, is supporting, and is watching the game on TV. Thanks very much. I'm here for questions.